You
Oh.
Arab. You Arab?
No, I'm Jewish.
You Jewish?
I'm Israeli. Is it bad?
Very.
This is Jewish from Jacob from Israel.
Not Jewish.
The tribe of Israel. Okay, so the Jews is from Judah,
Yes.
but there was 12 tribes that came from Israel. That was Jacob. Ishmael was another person, son of Abraham.
Yes.
We are brothers.
So who's Amalek?
Amalek.
Yeah, who's he?
Um,
Son of Esau.
Amalek was no. Amalek was an enemy of the Israelite at the time of the Bible.
Yeah, they are. Right,
Okay.
and they still are.
And the promise, the God gave an order to kill all Amalek, everybody. And Saul, the king, did not do that. And there was a punishment because of that. And Saul fell down, and David, King David, became to be the king instead of him. If you know the story. But this is the lineage of the Jews, of the Israelites.
Well, all this pertains to us.
What is you?
We're on this board right here. I don't know exactly who I am. I know on this board that where you're at, you're on the other side of the sign.
Okay, what am I?
Wait.
We are Shem. We are the son of Shem, Semite. White man, Edom. Oh,
Right.
Edom
so-
is not white man. Anyway,
Right.
I think you ever
all these other nations, they have issues over there with those people in that land because you have Iranians saying y'all not the Jews. All these other nations, they say the Holocaust ain't real. All these other people are saying y'all are not the people of this book. But there's one people who actually fit the description of this book, who are the Bible talks about the Jews being in poverty, about them being oppressed. Your people aren't oppressed over there. They're getting all type of
were
goods,
oppressed for 2,000
all type of money.
Yeah.
All our money that we work hard is being sent over there. Y'all are not oppressed at
Okay,
all.
so
by
the Jews, according to prophecy, was oppressed for 2,000 years. The prophecy said that after 2,000 years they will go to Israel and prosper. And so now it's the time
Where-
of the Jews to prosper.
Where are
Read
you-
the Bible,
where are
read
you-
the
Where are
prophecy.
you going after 2,000 years?
Yes, Moses was talking about it, and all the prophet was telling you that they will be out
No,
and
there-
they will
there's
come
no
back.
says
And
2,000
Israel
years.
and Israel and Judah will get together to
You got to be reading some type of other
no,
translation,
no.
stuff like that.
No.
No.
I study the Bible, and
We are waiting right now to get our land back. You know,
who is we?
Us right here. We're waiting to get our land back.
So you're the Jews?
Yes.
True.
Who's the
beginning,
Jews?
The true Israelites, us. God did not
like
make
it.
man
You
from
take
dirt.
it.
White. He didn't have no white dirt. It was all dark dirt. Dark.
They were brown. They were not brown.
Bottom line. Are you brown?
I'm brown.
Okay.
You're not.
I was born in Africa,
Okay.
in Morocco.
It don't
My
matter where
parents,
you're born. You got
my
white South Africans
DNA,
that's
I
born in
test my
Africa.
DNA. You test your DNA, see if you're in the middle from the Middle East. I'm from the Middle East.
I'm gonna test my. This is how I test
You're
my
from
DNA in this
Africa.
book.
You from Africa. You're not
We're
from
not
the
No,
Middle
we
East.
not. No, we not.
We're
No?
not Africans, sir.
No, we ain't nowhere close
We're
to
the
that.
Israelites. That's who we are.
God bless you.
Okay, one more question. You said
Priest
you're Jewish, right?
Yes.
What tribe are you from?
Me, tribe of Judah, because
You're a Judite?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'm from Judah, and I can prove it by my DNA. I tested it.
But I thought DNA test was illegal over there.
No. This is different story. I'm in America. I live in Austin, Texas. But the Judah, there was Israel and Judah split. The Babylon came, took the Israelite,
We know.
and kicked them out to Babylon. The Judah stayed there for a while till the Roman came, and the Roman kicked them out in 2,000 years just before Jesus, around
70
Jesus' time.
AD.
Exactly. Now you can follow the lineage from those people left Judah and went to Morocco, Egypt, Spain. My lineage is Spain, but we can take it all the way to the Middle East 2,000 years ago.
Okay. but
Can you do that?
Is your father a so-called black man?
Okay, he's brown like me.
He's brown.
He's brown. So Jesus was black, you saying?
Precept.
Yeah,
was
that's what
wrong.
he described.
Precept.
It's being the so-called. Get Revelation 1:13, please.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 1 and verse 13, and it reads, "And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with the garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with the golden girdle."
All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving our praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakak Wadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the artists of great millstone, who are learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. And today, I just want to do a quick lesson on, a run-in we had, with a small hat, this past Saturday, excuse me, Slakia. You pretty much had this guy, walk up to the camp, because, pretty much while I was speaking, I was going into how the other nations were oppressing us, and at that particular moment, I was speaking about how I've never seen a poor Arab. Now, let me not classify, but clarify what I mean, when I say that. Now, obviously you have, Ishmaelites, which are the so-called Arabs, that are over in these different Eastern countries that are, poor, that are struggling. But what I mean is here in America, I've never seen a poor Arab, I haven't seen them, out on the streets begging for money, homeless. I've never seen that. The only, homeless people that I've seen out on the street as far as different nations, obviously, Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you see them, Edomites, but I've never seen an Arab out on the street begging, but that's not the point. But as I was going into that, he walked up, he heard me say Ishmael, and I asked him, are you, because he heard me say Ishmael. I asked him, well, are you Arab? He said no, that he was Jewish, so he was a small hat, which, we kind of got a kick out of it, and certain things he said, were correct, that obviously, the tribes on the sign, were the Israelites. That's the lineage, or part of it anyway, and when I say part of it, that's the lineage, because Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and then Jacob's 12 sons. So, yes, the 12 sons, just going into the tribes, but he looked at the, the sign. Oh yeah, these are, the tribes of Israel, which again, he was correct on. But he has the stance of, he believes that he's an Israelite, and that's incorrect. He is not an Israelite, he is actually Amalek, which the elder brother, Yaakov asked him, well, okay, who Israel is, well, who is Amalek? And he kind of stumbled a little bit, and I don't know if it was his accent or, because he got put on the spot, but he said, Amalek is the enemy of the Israelites, which he was correct on, but Amalek is the enemy of the Israelites. But today, Amalek would be the small hats, the so-called Jewish people, those rats that are over there in the land of Israel, even the ones here in America or wherever they are, in this world, they're not the people. Now, do you have some of our people scattered among them? Yes, but for the most part, they are not Israelites, they're Amalek, Amalekites, and then he went into that, it just goes to show you that these low-level rats truly believe that they're the people, but they're not, man. It's too much evidence to prove that they're not the people. We've gone into this, so many times, really starting from the apostles and elders on down, that this information has been brought out so many times, like all the nations of the earth know that those people are not the people. They know that, because everybody in the world hates them right now, And this isn't, hate speech or none of that madness, man. This is fact that the different nations can't stand Amalek, man. Why? Because they're wicked. Look at what they're doing to the earth, and he couldn't, get his head wrapped around the fact that he's an Amalekite. You're not an Israelite. You're not one of us. And then he asks, well, who are you? Well, we're one of the tribes. I myself, I believe I'm of the tribe of Judah, because most of my family, well, which, it really doesn't matter with my other family members, but most of my family members are Judites. My father was a so-called black man and my grandfather a so-called black man. That is about, as far as I can trace, my own lineage, because my grandfather was from, the South Alabama, to be exact, so, I believe I'm of the tribe of Judah, but that is, we'll figure out, what tribes exactly we are, once, we get delivered, Lord willing. But again, just certain things, man. I'm just, not to ramble too much, but again, just want to hit a couple points, man, because again, I gotta laugh out of it, man, because that man truly believed that he's an Israelite, which again, and that's how they're not the people, because they call themselves Jewish, and I'm using that term, lightly just for the YouTube, just I don't try to take my video down, but they call themselves Jewish or Israeli, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. We're the only ones that call ourselves the Israelites. Why? Because that's who we are, and then it's not going to be in a particular order, but I want to start with this because he was trying to leave, but I asked him, right before he left, I said, okay, you're Jewish, right? I said, well, what tribe are you from? He said, I'm on the tribe of Judah. So I said, oh really? Because it clearly says in the scriptures that the tribe of Judah are dark skinned, well, I can prove, you can't prove that you're of the tribe of Judah. Just like I can't prove 100% that I'm a Judite, is truly based off faith with whichever tribe, we're from. If for a fact you're of, a particular tribe, then you're of that tribe. But again, you also have our people, that look like the other nations, so they may not know exactly what tribe they're from, But again, as we know, the tribe of Judah is the so-called Negroes, man. The head tribe of the nation of Israel. And he's saying, oh yeah, well, I was born in Morocco. My father is brown. Your father is not brown, man. Amalek, you're red. Now you may be not looking like your your typical pasty Edomite, but again, you're not of the tribe of Judah, man. Let me just say that. So Slakia, for the rambling, man, but just you small hats, man. You just don't know you have a lot to pay for. You do. Says the book of Jeremiah, chapter 14 and verse 2. It says, Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, and they cry for Jerusalem is going up. And right, it says Judah is black unto the ground, meaning they're dark skinned, man. Man, you ain't dark skinned. No, we're not going to be ignorant because, the tribe of Judah, can range from being very dark skinned to very light skinned, But as we know, the tribe of Judah, has dark skin, because the nation of Israel as a whole, we're different shades of brown, But Judah's is dark skinned, because he said, he was a Jew. And then the Jews, according to the scriptures, would be Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, the southern kingdom. They would be classified as the Jews, because he also brought out how, okay, during the time of the Babylonians ruling, they came and got us out of Jerusalem, which they did, put us in captivity, and then we were the only ones left over there. You know, the Assyrians came and got Northern Kingdom, you know, out of the land. So, you know, they were gone already. You know, they were in the Americas, North, Central, and South America. You know, they were already over here in the the Western world, you know, while we were still over in the East. So he was right on that. He also mentioned 70 AD, which again, you're not one of those people. You know, you weren't one of them. You're not one of them. You know, you're an imposter, you know, is what you are. You know, and again, he said he's from Texas, which, you know, cool, you're an American small hat, which again, I didn't think of it, you know, while he was there, but I know I just remember after he left, you know, but again, if you small hats are the people, then why do your people, you know, get caught up with, you know, the pedo PDF files? Why are a lot of them those, you know? The tunnel in New York, we didn't forget about that, you know. The J-ish Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know, was a joke online, you know, but still, man, you know, had mattresses underground with blood stains. I'm like, man, y'all, you people, yes, I'm gonna say it straight up, you people, you know, do a lot of sick things, man, especially involving children. And if you're the people, why do you do these things? Why is the world at the brink of a third world war? Why are there nuclear weapons on the earth? Why are the different nations getting ready to fight each other? Where is Yahweh Shai? Where is King David? Where's the rest of the 12? Where are the rest of the tribes of Israel? If you are the people. He made a goofy statement that said after 2,000 years, oh, Israel will get their land back and prosper. It says that nowhere in the scriptures. It clearly says that our Lord Yahweh Shai is going to deliver us from Babylon the Great, you know, and then bring us into our land, you know. That land doesn't belong to you. So obviously those people over there are not the people. So there's the book of Zechariah chapter 9 and verse 6, and it says, and a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, and I will cut off the pride of the Philistines. And right, man, he says a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, which is, you know, it's one of the cities over there in Israel. Excuse me, Slakia. And you have Ishmael and Amalek over there, you know, and both of those, both of these nations are fighting over a land that is not theirs, you know, especially, you know, Amalek. You know, they're bastards. That's not their land. You know, it's our land. And that's what the elder brother Yakol said, man. You know, that's our land over there. We're going to get our land back, you know, in due time. But he believes that his people are the people, and they're not, man. If your people are the people, then why hasn't this happened yet? This is the book of Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 2. And it says, and it shall come to pass that in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. Now the mountain represents the government, because the 144,000 elect men are going to be the governing body of Israel, you know. And as it says, you know, the different nations are going to flow unto the mountain. Right? Verse 3, it says, and many people shall go and say, come ye, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion go forth the law, and of the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And right, man, you don't have every nation of people flocking, you know, to Jerusalem to learn the law, statutes, and commandments. No, man. You have people ready to send nukes over there. This isn't happening, man. This is how you know you're not the people, because this has not taken place yet, right? Verse 4, and he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And right, man, if you're the people, then why hasn't, why is the Third World War about to happen? You know, if you're the people, why hasn't the nations put their weapons down and picked up farming tools? Why aren't the other nations in subjection to you? You know, again, where is our Lord Yahweh Shai? If you're the people, where is he? Where is King David? You know, these questions need to be answered if you're the people, which you're not, man. But it's okay. You want to be us, but you're not us, man. You know, it's like Paul Mooney said, everybody want to be a nigga, but don't want to be a nigga. You know, everybody wants to be like us, but don't want to, get treated like us. Don't want to go through the things that we went through, So I'm going to get the book of Exodus chapter 17 and verse 16. And it says, for he said, because the Lord hath sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. And is that not happening now? Those people have not been at peace since they have been in our land, man. Even once they first got there in 1948, a war broke out that same day. The president of Egypt during the 1950s, Gamal Abdel Nasser, he made a speech concerning them, and just paraphrasing the part that was the most important of what he said. He said, you left black and came back white, and he was talking about, the Jays, because again, he knew, and he was a heathen, He knew that the Jays, the Jews, the true Jays, were dark skinned. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, they're the Jews, But he knew this, and he knew that you weren't the people back then, and everyone in this current world knows that you're not the people now. So this is why the Lord has been messing you up, and he's going to continue to mess you up. You've stolen the identity of his people, and you're pretending to be him, and you've blasphemed him and his son. But it's okay, man. Because the Lord is going to deal with you in due time. So I'll end it with this. Is the book of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 7. And it says, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. And this is what we're waiting for Esau, Edom to be taken out of the way so we can rule. Verse 8, and it says, then shall that wicked be revealed, because Esau, Edom has been revealed. His true identity has been revealed in these last days. And when I showed him the sign of the table of nations, what did he look at first? Oh, he said Edom, that's how they, I guess how he said Edom, but Edom is a white man. He said, oh no, that's not, he tried to say the white man is not Edom, which that's wrong. Esau is Edom, just like it says in the scriptures, man. You're an Edomite of the tribe of Amalek. Don't deny your identity. You can't hide it anymore, man. It's been revealed, So I'm going to start that over. Second Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 8. It says, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. And Esau has been revealed. His true identity has been revealed, man. Everyone knows that they are not the biblical Israelites, Everyone still tries to deny it being the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Because this is all I'm going to say, man. Everyone knows it's not them. If it's not us, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, then who is it? There is a nation of people on this earth that this book is written about, that are suffering the things written within it, and they're going to inherit the things that are written within it as well, man. Does it clearly not say in the scriptures, what was written within Lamentations, mourning, and woe? The Israelites have been through a lot of things, man, and none of these other nations have been through what we have been through, man. You know? So verse 9, it says, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of uprightness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Right, man, you know, Esau, Edom's working is after Satan, you know, and Amalek is the grandson of Esau, you know, and what he doesn't realize is that that's his biblical nationality. He's an Amalekite. You're not an Israelite, you will not be saved, you know. You're saying that, oh, well, after 2,000 years, they're going to prosper. No. Now, is Amalek over there in the land prospering? Yes, off the tax dollars of the U.S. citizens. And we're not making this up, you know, because I remember hearing years ago that, you know, they send those rats $40 billion a year, you know. So while they're over there living good, the American people are over here struggling, you know. So we don't want to hear that shit, man. You know, you're not the people. Your people are not impoverished. They're not in the lowest state. You know, they're not suffering from the curses written in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. You know, your people aren't being oppressed by all the other nations, you know. But who is? So-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, and so-called Native Americans, the biblical Israelites, man. You know, you're not one of us. So that's it. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all our praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till the next time I say, Shalom.
Everybody want to be a nigga, but nobody want to be a nigga. How about that question?